Hi, good morning, everyone. It is Darren Smith along with Steve Walls, and we welcome you to the pregame cheat sheet. We are live inside the press box here at Arrowhead Stadium, where the Kansas City Chiefs will finish off their preseason, taking on the Cleveland Browns in their only preseason home game here at Arrowhead. Steve, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good, man. The fans are coming in. This is like one of the games where you expect the tickets to be cheaper, but I don't see. I saw a
I
couple
saw
of
like
tickets
34,
like
41 bucks. Like,
no, no, no,
oh,
no, no, no. I saw some tickets online for $150 a
three,
ticket.
not 300 level, I hope.
Well, they were. I saw some ones that were like, 100 level, row 38
I
or
remember,
some.
man, I remember you can get some preseason tickets up here for $6. I used
Yeah.
to owe $2 at one time, and I get like 15 of them, just pass them out to people just so they can come here. But that being said, a lot here. We want to welcome you once again. This is our third pregame of the season doing this, and of
Hmm.
course, in 2 weeks we'll be back. Steve and I will be back, getting you ready to start the opening 2023-24 regular season, as the Chiefs will be hosting the Detroit Lions, and they'll, of course, unveil the championship banner and all the pomp and circumstances that go with it. But in today's game, the Chiefs host the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, led by Deshaun Watson, he'll be starting for them today. Probably play the first quarter, if not the first half. Update for those who don't know, but Patrick Mahomes is not playing in today's game. Neither is Travis Kelce. Neither
Go
is
figure.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Right, get the money, but don't let them play.
Yeah.
Along with Nick Bolton. Your thoughts on those players sitting out in this game? And because Andy told us this week that he was going to have the ones playing, and he said that he didn't really guarantee that Mahomes was going to play, but did say he
Yeah.
would play, and Mahomes said he was going to play as well. But your thoughts on him not playing? I think it's a little shysty when it
Yeah.
comes to asking fans to pay this kind of money. It's the only home game, and for those who's not going to be able to see Mahomes this year because of the prices of these tickets, I think Mahomes at least playing the opening drive would have been suffice.
Yeah, I think so too. But then again, you got to think of on Andy's side, Mahomes is talking about he wants to take this big hit, like he just needs to
Yeah,
get that
he
hit.
did. He did.
Well, I'm gonna do you one better. I'm not even gonna let you play.
Yeah.
So, I think they've seen all that they could see. I think last week if they would not have been able to score in either one of their drives, they'd be playing this week. Especially with next week, you have a kind of a rest week if you will. So they've seen enough from Kelsey, MVS, but everybody else I think will be open fair game.
Juan Thornhill is the new safety for
Hmm.
the Cleveland Browns. He's back. He's back in Kansas City. I heard take on his old teammates. Talking to Justin Reed and some of the other players last week. They're looking forward to at least catching up with them on that. But let's talk about what we can expect in today's game. Obviously, with no Mahomes, with no Kelsey, with no MVS, with no Bolton. Who are you expecting? Because obviously, with them not playing, I think we'll see the ones for possibly a quarter or a couple of series. But I
Hmm.
think it's going to be more so now. You're going to look and try to evaluate the talent that you got here to see, because cuts come on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think the evaluation process is a big thing because I'll start with the wide receiving room. From receivers 6 and 7, there's kind of a toss up there. And Andy Reid talked about how the room is so competitive, and just talking to a couple guys last week after the game, and I asked them about that competitive nature of that wide receiver room. How do they go about that? And they said, well, it's a healthy competition, because they know any given day, any of these guys in that room could play on any team and be successful. So, from that aspect of it, I think all of them want to come out here and do well, and I want to see them do well. But it's going to be definitely, this is a day where you got to make sure that you catch everything, even though it's not coming from
And
Patrick.
look, we'll have a conversation now because we're going to. I mean, it's going to happen. Tuesday. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's no denying it. But who do you think? Because you look at the wide receiver room, but also even the running backs and on defense, who do
Hmm.
you see not making the squad? Because like I was on some spaces
Ooh.
earlier today. I said this could possibly be Cornell Powell's
Hmm.
last game for the Kansas City Chiefs. If he's been here since 2020 and hasn't really had a chance to really perform for this team. I look at we look at some of the running backs. Does the Derek Prince make this squad?
Right.
And I had somebody from Cleveland ask me, does is this Clyde Edwards-Helaire, will he get cut after this guy? I don't think so.
I don't think they're letting him go for
But
nothing.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
who do you think makes the team? Who do you think doesn't make the team based off of what we see in today's
If
action?
I'm just going down a roster, I think they'll keep. People are like, well, he keeps 7 receivers. I don't know, but let's just look. I say You're looking at MVS, Sky Moore.
You
I
got
would say
Kadarius Toney. You got to keep
Richie
him.
James. I say Kadarius Tony's going to go on IR, so that'll open up a spot.
They're
Um,
still expecting to play in the first.
to make things easier, I would just say
Yeah.
throw him on IR. So you have Sky, you got MVS, you got Justin Watson. I would say Richie James. Um, I would say you go on with Justin Ross, and if you're going to keep seven, Powell and Amir Smith Marset. That gives you your seven right there.
I think you kind of eight because I can't see because when I look at it again, I'm looking at this and Sky Moore, yes, Richie James, yes, just because of the acquisition.
That's two.
On the other side, MVS, obviously, Justin Watson, he was on the squad
Four.
last year. I can't see a reason why he wouldn't be
Yep.
here. I would say Justin Ross. I can't
That's
see
five.
why he wouldn't be here.
Kadarius Tony, remember he's on IR.
Kadarius Toney, so that's
That'd be six when he comes back.
okay. So
And one more. It's
Amir,
between Cornell Powell and Amir Smith Marset. Now, remember, we're looking at them from a receiver aspect, but what about special teams? Because Dave Tote says all the time, you can make this team by playing well on special teams. So which one of those guys do the best on special teams? Can Amir Smith Marset do more than Cornell Powell on special teams? He can, I think, because he can return punts and return kicks.
I'm look. Maybe I've missed some of those. I haven't remembered Powell being on the 53-man roster, even doing special
Yeah,
teams.
he was on practice squad.
Well, no, I know he's on press squad, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
but game day special teams. I
Yeah,
ain't
yeah.
So,
My
I
point.
mean, so it's like I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'll stand aside on that. The other question though people have asked is that asked me about was Jody Fortson. Now his injury, he's done for the season, correct?
Yes.
So would they cut him, and designate him via injury, or would they, or is he just on the IR and he's just sitting out there? So.
No, they would. I don't think they'd cut him. He's just on IR. Since he's not playing for this season, I believe he'll just be on IR.
So again, Kansas City takes on the Cleveland Browns in today's game. Kickoff is just about 10 to 15 minutes away. Now let's look at the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, led by Deshaun Watson. They got Nick Chubb. He's obviously sitting out in today's game. But they also got Amari Cooper. They got Myles Garrett on the defense side of football. They brought in Zadarius Smith from Minnesota. Juan Thornhill from Kansas City. Where do you see? How does this team stack up talent-wise, top to bottom, 1 to 53? And is this a team that the Chiefs could possibly see in the playoffs?
You know what? I'm gonna look at offensively first. I mean, you got Amari Cooper, you got Donovan Peoples-Jones. With just those two, they've always just scratched the surface these past few years. I mean, you had Nick Chubb, you had Kareem Hunt, even going back to when they had Baker and they had Jarvis Landry and OBJ, right? Like they were just scratching the surface, but what did they miss? A quarterback. Now you don't have those quote-unquote star wide receivers, so you've got to kind of make chicken salad out of chicken stuff, And I think he's not going to be as bad as a quarterback as he was
I
last
think
year.
he's going to be bad at all compared to what he had last year because he basically hadn't played in almost 2 years and 6 games with the suspension. I think with a full off season, full training camp, working with his wide receivers, I've heard a lot of good things about he and his wide receivers. To me, the question mark is going to be the coaching with Kevin Stefanski. If he is somehow goes back to that 2020 Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski, with this offense, look, they have a real good offensive line led by Joe Batonio. I know he's a left guard, but he's tracking Hall of Fame status over there. Again, you got Nick Chubb. If you can put the players in the right situation, I don't think Deshaun Watson has, at like 15 or 16 turnovers or interception like that. I think that could be a team literally that could, if everything falls into place, they can do something with it.
Yeah, and you think about just from the defensive side of the ball, their defense is stacked, man. I mean, you got Myles Garrett who's leading the way.
Their weakest link is going to be their linebacking core.
I mean, you got Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome. You talked about Juan Thornhill, Rodney McLeod. Yeah, all these guys are veterans. Like, I don't see any drop off. I mean, you have Anthony Walker.
Myles Garrett could potentially break the league sack record, especially when you add Zadarius Smith. Because remember, Zadarius Smith had 8.5 sacks after so many games last year before he had suffered a little injury. But you put him on the line next to Myles Garrett, you can't double both players.
Right, I agree, and we'll see. I don't know if any of those guys are playing today. Well, but I think just in that AFC because they're in the AFC North.
Yeah.
Um,
And look,
it's an open
their,
division.
their first two games is against division opponent. They take on a home opener with Cincinnati. We don't know whether or not Joe Burrow's 100%,
They
going
may
into
be
the
able to
game.
steal one. They may be able to steal a win there.
Yeah. And then also the following week they take on the Pittsburgh Steelers as well.
And that's wide open.
And that's I think that's a Monday night game. So yeah, so if they can start off 2-0, that'll be good for them. I think their first bye week is like week 5 of the season. So you start off. I was on one of the shows this week, and they asked me if I'm a Browns fan, would I rather have Deshaun Watson play a great game but lose week 1 or play 176 yards and interception or something, and they win the game? I say, well, you take the win.
Of course,
you always take the win.
Yeah.
Because you can always get better.
It must not have been Browns fan.
So it's one of the things about I told them, I said, no, you always take the win. You can always get better. I'm like, playing a great game and you lose. I said, and then they lose against the Steelers.
That's selfish, what that is.
Yeah, then you're going to return around talking about they're on the hot seat and they're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
so,
no, that's selfish.
You take the win at all times.
That's selfish.
But look, we're getting close to kickoff. Again, when we do our next pregame show is, of course, going to be around 6 o'clock or so on September the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
Steve and I will be here. We may have some guests or something chime in as we get prepared for unveiling the banner and everything else. So make sure you join us post game. We'll do a post game show. Weather permitting, if it's not too hot, but we'll be doing a post game show. Follows, we'll bring you the chief post game presser with Andy Reid and whoever else is at the podium.
Mm-hmm.
And for Steve Walls, I'm Darren Smith. Thank you so very much for joining us, and we'll see you start the regular season. Thank you so much for joining us.